Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Josh Ferrari. Thanks for being on the show again, Josh.
Yeah, man. Stoked that I get an opportunity to be a part tour.
No, it's awesome. Well, you have a great story, and I know many of the listeners are hoping to follow in your footsteps and accomplish what you accomplished. I wanted to be able to continue the conversation yesterday and just spend more time talking about how you did it. 6 million in 30 days. That's very impressive. I don't know too many people that have done that early on. As far as, not having an extremely established syndication business for many years and be able to do something like that, of course, but not the way you did, that early. So congratulations again. But I want to jump right in. And again, I encourage you, as a listener, if you didn't hear us yesterday, I encourage you to go back and listen to the first part of this episode with Josh, and just an amazing story. And we'll go through a little bit of that. But Josh house hacked a fourplex, and then he got into this business. He got a 21 unit after meeting his business partner, and then amongst some other partnerships. But ultimately, what we're talking about today is how he raised $6 million in 30 days. And we focused yesterday on building the relationships and the onboarding process and keeping that relationship going, and then specifically a Facebook Live strategy that somebody challenged him to, and it worked. I think your goal was 500,000 in 30 days. Is that right, Josh?
Right. That was the goal.
Yeah. So, he surpassed that a little bit there. So it's awesome. But a big part that where we left off was talking about the referrals. And I wanted us to continue there. And I want us to, we're going to continue the conversation and go a little more in depth about some other things and systems that he's put in place and people he's hired. But at that time, raising that kind of money, even at any point in your business, referrals are just crucial. And we get more and more referrals all the time. And it's great to hear that, right? Somebody such and such referred me to you. They had nothing but great things to say. That goes so far with an investor. But one thing that I know that I do not hear very often, and what Josh brought up that worked for him, is people don't ask for referrals. They don't ask, do you know anybody else, that could benefit, right, from this type of opportunity? So Josh, I wanted to jump back in there and because you listed a couple of things there, but I wanted you to highlight maybe how you did that when you were going through that process. And then let's talk about that a little more in depth.
Right. So initially going through the process, before the challenge ever even started, I had only raised about $150,000, and I just never really saw myself as much of a capital raiser. So ending that 30 days with having raised $6 million was astronomical for me, just like I feel like it is for everyone else hearing the story of, holy cow, how do you do that? How is that possible? I don't know. I was just myself. I was just genuine. I was just talking to people and then getting those referrals. So when the referrals really kicked in wasn't actually until day 11, because I wasn't really, I guess, of the mindset, like I said, of capital raising and business ethics and how really building that strong relationship went. I was just trying to be myself as much as possible, but we were getting educational advice as the challenge was progressing. So every day we'd get a little video and we'd get a little piece of homework and then a challenge that we would need to do for that day, and maybe a PDF of something to fill out or whatever it was. And then on day 11, I remember there was some people going through beta testing of this actual challenge before us, but we were all part of the same Facebook page. So some of the beta testers that had already gone past day 11 and some other significant days that everyone really enjoyed, they were like, day 11's the best. And someone else was like, no, it's day 22 without a doubt, whatever these days were. And so for us going through the challenge for the first time, actually having paid the money and in it on the back end of that, we were like, what the heck's on day 11? The heck are we going to see? And so day 11, I remember it was when he said that we need to be asking for referrals. You guys have got to be don't end it with just the pleasantries. Don't end it with, thanks for giving us a call or giving us a shout or whatever. Thanks for trusting us with your money. It's all good stuff to say, and maybe you should still say it. but make sure that you're ending the phone call by asking the question of if they think that they know someone else that might be interested in another opportunity like it. And then another big thing we had to do before we led up to that day, because he could have told us on day one, hey, ask for referrals. It's going to be huge. Ask for referrals. But every day was kind of like a buildup. It was kind of like a mindset shift, changing your perspective, getting you to be, I guess, a bigger professional or someone that knows more about capital raising. I guess I don't even know it. Like, I don't even know. I was learning it, going through the process. And I remember those first few days, he was telling us, hey, you guys actually are providing an opportunity here, because a lot of people don't go out and try to raise money or ask people for money or do Facebook lives or whatever on social media specifically, because they feel like they're begging for money and whatever. And he's like, you've got to get out of that mindset. You got to be in the mindset that you actually are providing opportunities to people that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So really, there's way more capital out there than there is deals. And he gave us some statistic. It was like some astronomical number. Like there's trillions of dollars out there somewhere in one specific type of IRA or something. And like, think about how many deals are out there that could actually have that amount of capital put into them. It was like, holy cow. There was a lot of money out there just floating around, and people don't know what to do with it. They don't know it's an option. They don't know that all these opportunities are out there. So educating people and then realizing that you are providing a legitimate opportunity was step number one before he could really dive us into telling us we need to be asking for referrals.
Okay. So it's interesting you say, day 11 is because the way, you received this information, you knew it by the day. But also, I wanted to mention though, so you were, or how soon in that process did you start receiving calls, or, were you just connecting with people online and then you said, hey, let's schedule a call? Tell us about that process, how soon that started to happen, and how that functioned a little bit.
It honestly probably took about a week, about 5 to 7 days before I really had a legitimate like off-screen call scheduled with someone. So I remember those first few days, I was never really on social media previous to the challenge. So getting on there, I guess I was just entering back into the algorithms of people actually even being able to see my face and see what I was posting. And so I got a couple of likes and maybe a comment or two like, wow, I didn't even know you were in aviation. Like, they didn't even know what my day job was. Nevertheless, the fact that I'm buying multifamily deals. And so that it was some of those like really old high school friends or something, just wanting to know more about me and what the heck was going on in my life, wanting to catch up and touch base. And I might have had a few off-screen calls previous to day 5 or 7 with some old high school buddies, just asking me what I'm doing, but they're not interested in real estate. They're just wanted to catch up and chat. And so that was fun. It was fun. It was fun getting to talk to old friends. But when it really got into the depth of people like, okay, I'm legitimately interested in the fact that you're providing an investment opportunity. I actually have capital, or I know someone with capital, or got an IRA, because now I've said somewhere in there like, hey, did you know you can invest through an IRA? And they're like, I had no idea. I thought I had no money, but I've got 400,000 in this IRA that's been sitting there for 20 years. Yeah, I didn't know I could do something with it. And so now the phone calls were starting to come in, and they weren't coming in. I didn't even have like Calendly or any kind of like calendar scheduling set up. It was just like, hey, just texting and then looking at my calendar, seeing what was good for me, texting them back. I should have had a little bit more systems in place, because it was a little chaotic of trying to schedule all these phone calls.
It worked either way.
But it worked. We made it happen. So yeah, it's probably about day 5, day 7. I was actually starting to get phone calls with people. So then, like we just mentioned, it wasn't until day 11 that I was like, dang, I should reach back out to those people and and ask for referrals. Like, we should go backwards and make sure we're getting as many connections here as we possibly can.
So do you know or have a rough percentage or idea of, the people that you talk to, or even the number of people that you talk to, but how many of them were people that you already knew, like from way back when sometime, or just somehow, versus brand new connections?
People that I already knew was probably, so the total that we raised, the 6 million, probably about 1 million of that came from about 25 to 30 investors. And then from 1 million to 6 million was all referrals. So the 25 to 30 people, that was strictly people that I already knew, people that were already following me for however long, and they had no idea what I was into, and they just wanted to know more about me. And so the lives were allowing them to know more about me without having to be on the phone with each individual person. Like it's like having a personal conversation with hundreds of people, them getting to see this live video of you. And so then they see that, they get to know more about you, and that's when they want to learn more about you. They're commenting on your posts now, maybe to start off, to see what you're all about. And now they're direct messaging you to see a little more of what you're about. And then you finally get them on the phone. And then that's where the magic happens. So the rest of the majority of the money came from newer investors.
Just wondered about that because I knew that's something that's on people's minds as they're hearing this or they're trying to do the same thing. That majority of this was people you did not know yet. You built that relationship on Facebook and then in person or over the phone. I mean, but it's interesting too. 1 million from 25 to 30 investors, but then from the 1 million mark to 6 million, it was all from referrals. That's very interesting, and it's just good to know. Hey, you need to be asking, right? You need to be asking for referrals. Any tips on that ask? Because sometimes like during your first conversation with someone, typically it's hard to ask for some, or you feel like you shouldn't ask for something like that, right? Like they just met you. How can they refer somebody else or something? What are your thoughts about that, and how did you handle that?
I think going backwards from even getting on that first call, it comes from what we were just talking about earlier with the mindset of realizing that you are actually providing opportunities. So even if they don't know you extremely well, or even if they say no, I was surprised. Some of the people that said, no, I'm not interested in investing, or I don't have the money right now. I don't even really like real estate as an asset class. Like that was a weird conversation. I was like, well, then what? Like I couldn't fathom that one. But so some of the people that even said no, still had referrals. Like, yeah, well, actually I do know someone that is interested in real estate, or yeah, my uncle's been talking about every Christmas or whatever that he's trying to invest more in stocks or something. He wants to invest more. Maybe he'd be interested in real estate. And so it was crazy that even the people that weren't interested, whether if it was at that specific time or they just weren't interested at all, they had people that they knew that did have access to capital. So I think the biggest thing is first realizing from a mindset perspective that you are providing an opportunity, then realizing that you're coming from a place of, I guess, helpfulness. Like you genuinely want to help this person. You genuinely want to help whoever they have connections with. You're not actually begging for their money or for someone else's money. Like when you ask the referral question, it has to be coming from a place of true desire to help someone and to benefit others. And if you know that you're always coming from that place, and maybe they're turned off and they don't like the question or they get antsy, then that just is what it is. At least you asked, and don't be rude about it by any means. If they get antsy or don't want to give you any referrals, that's fine. But at least you asked the question. At least you came from a place of wanting to help someone.
No, that's a great answer because it's very true. Very true. You got to come from a mindset knowing that you're adding value to this person and hopefully someone else as well. And so, you're not just asking for money, right? But so, as successful as it was, I mean, wow, right? You did so good at this capital raise. Is there, knowing what you know now, is there any way that you could have improved it?
Wow. Is there any way I could have improved it? I guess at the end of the day, I could have raised more money. I think I would have already had the systems in place at that time of entering into the challenge, because like we talked about previously, entering into that challenge, I had never really raised any money. I really didn't. I had a podcast at the time. It was just kind of growing. We had only started it a few months prior. I didn't really have a big audience. I didn't have any CRM or automated emails or ways to keep in touch with people. It was all just me having to remember all this stuff. And that's a horrible way to go about it. I mean, it turned out good and it turned out all right. But if you're trying to go about life remembering everything, then it's just not going to work. So I wish or if to make it better, I would have had things in place where, okay, someone's interested in investing. Let's put them in a funnel over here. And once they get in that funnel, let's send them a card to their house. Let's send them some brownies. Let's put them in this email list. Let's make sure that I have some type of automated thing that goes on my phone that says, hey, touch base with this person again in 2 weeks, touch base with this person again in a month. And then make sure, and I was always taking notes on every investor that I was talking to. So I knew what to talk about with that specific person when the time came to retouch base. So those were some of the things I was not doing. I was not continuing to touch base with these people. I added them to our monthly newsletter list, which was about the only form of communication I was having with these people at the time. And for all I know, it could be going to spam. They could not even be hearing from me for months on end. So I would have definitely had more touches and more continued connections to create a truly genuine connection with these people, so that I could stay top of mind when they're thinking about investing, or when they're talking to their uncle at Christmas, or when whatever's happening in their life that has to do with wanting to grow their financial freedom, financial independence, they think about us. That's something I would have done.
Great. No, great answer. I would have done the same. When we started the podcast, I did not have a great follow-up system, and it's something we have been working on nonstop still. I mean, it's just always this evolving thing that you're always improving or attempting to improve. So you can provide, better content and educate people, stay in front of those investors. So tell us now a little bit about that machine or that system that you've created, for marketing or for follow-up. What did you put in place? Did you hire people? What did you do?
Yes. So I wanted to create more. I wanted to do everything I just mentioned. And that was some of the things that were coming up from people I was talking to, podcast interviewees that I was having on the show that were giving me all this like great advice, and reading books and all this other stuff. I was getting these ideas and this knowledge, this education of different things that I could implement and do. And then at that point, I realized, what the heck am I doing? I mean, why am I not doing all these things? How much further along could I be if I just had some systems in place? So initially, I was like, I'd love to implement some of these systems. Let's see what we can do. And I started doing some research and realized it was going to take a lot of time to go through that learning curve of how to set up automations and do all this stuff on a CRM and pay for a good CRM. That was going to cost money. And then I didn't really know what the heck I was going to do. Like, okay, I've got the CRM, I'm paying for it. How, like, maybe I know now how to implement things, but what's my strategy? The heck am I supposed to do? Those were some of the things I was trying to learn, but at the end of the day, I was clueless. And so I was like, okay, it's gonna take a little bit of capital to really get this thing up off the ground and get us where we need to go. So at that point, we'd started closing some deals, and I'm like, okay, now I've got some financial backing. Let's start dumping some of this money into the business so we can continue to grow. So we hired out all of the back end podcast editing and marketing, because I was doing from April of 2020 to December 1st of 2020. I was doing everything from creative, getting guests on, doing the interview, all of the editing, video editing, all of the communications with the guests. It was ridiculous. The marketing, everything. It took about 6 hours per episode for me to continue doing that. It was so time consuming, I couldn't fathom it. And so I knew I needed to get some more time, first of all, so that I could have time to continue educating myself on what I needed to do otherwise, while the podcast like brand continued to grow. So that was the first thing I did. I outsourced that to free up a ton of time. And that was fantastic. It was one of the best decisions. Do not regret it at all. So then after that, I said, okay, now I need to hire someone to help me with social media, because going back from the challenge, was like, social media was huge for us. And if I've already got a presence there, I just need to continue growing my presence and continuing to allow people to know what it is that I do. So then we hired a social media manager at the beginning of 2021. And a lot of times when I tell people I hired a social media manager, the first thing that goes into their head is thousands and thousands of dollars a month. Like this is a giant corporation. This is a giant company. They know what they're doing. They're handling everything. And it's not exactly the approach we took. First of all, we didn't have thousands and thousands of dollars to throw away every month on this company. So I actually got some referrals and some connection. Go back to referrals, some referrals from other people that were either doing something like this, or a company that I thought looked very reputable and that had great reviews on their platform. Like, hey, do you know anyone that is doing the social media thing that has this? And then I'm getting a referral from someone from this like one woman show that she runs her social. She's a social media manager and she does all of our postings for us. So
are they in the States? How did you, are they full time?
Yeah. So they're full time, I guess. But what they do, I guess that'll be better answered if I just tell you what they do. So she is on each one of our social media platforms every day for 30 minutes a day. And we've got 3 platforms we're on now. So Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So for an hour and a half a day minimum, she's on each platform, commenting on people's posts, liking people's posts, direct messaging people, finding new people to talk to, just trying to stay interactive on all of the social media platforms. Then she's also coming up with creative content. I help a lot with the creative as well, just as far as like the how-tos of syndication and making sure that she's representing our brand properly. But she comes up with captions, graphics, and she puts all that stuff together. We have it all scheduled out for like a month in advance. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice.
Good for you
to have all that stuff scheduled out and posted. So she does that. And then she's kind of the strategist as well, helping us decide what it is we need to do. Hey, we've got a few personal posts here, but maybe we should incorporate some more educational or vice versa. Like, hey, you're blasting out too many graphics. People want to see your face. They want to see a video of you, a picture of you, you and your wife eating dinner, whatever. Like, let's sure that we have a good mix here. So she helps us with that. And then she puts together all of the hashtags. So that's what she does. And then to wrap this up real quick, then we've got the marketing manager, and he's kind of like he's got a full blown company behind him. He's the strategist and really has all the knowledge and education on what it is we need to do as far as back-end CRMs, email automations, integrating like every platform that we use, like Calendly and Send Out Cards and Zendirect and all these.
How'd you find that guy?
That guy I actually found from Active Campaign. So from Michael Blanc,
okay.
I found out that Active Campaign was what I need to be using for the CRM. And then Active Campaign has like a referral network or like reputable licensed contractors or something. And so I used his company.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. A lot of those CRMs will have people that, they're trained by that CRM system and whatnot, and they know it very well. And so they'll have people they recommend. That's incredible, Josh. It's been great just to hear your story and your ability or what, you were able to accomplish there. And I hope it's been very inspiring to the listeners also. And even, as if it wasn't extremely successful, you talked about just ways you can improve it, right? If you'd had those systems in place, but I think there was probably some limiting beliefs there, and it would have been anybody. You didn't expect that kind of response, right? If you'd have raised $500,000, you probably would have said, "Man, that worked out well," right? It was a success, to say the least, right? But it went so much better than that. So again, congratulations. But a few final questions before we run out of time. I like asking about just some daily habits that you are disciplined about that have helped you achieve success.
A few daily habits. So I started the Miracle Morning routine about a year ago, and then I incorporated the Miracle Morning routine with Brandon Turner's 90 Day of Intention journal. So the Miracle Morning routine, it was just like any journal with blank pages you could just write on. So then instead of just doing blank randomness, I said, well, I'll be a little bit more intentional about it with this intention journal. And it has a lot of pre-set out things of like, what are your top 3 goals you're trying to achieve in the next 90 days? What's your goal for like the next 2 months? What's your goal for the next month? Next week, next day, next hour, next minute. And it just kind of reverse engineers everything. So doing that every morning has been a huge help. Making sure I stay consistent and exercise and just lifestyle things helps a lot. And doing it in the morning has been huge for me because it allows me to center my mindset and my day on what are my goals? What am I trying to achieve? What am I waking up for every day? And it's Christ, it's my family. And then it's business. Then it's I got to get this thing going, and we've got to make this thing happen so we can get out of this W-2 and live a life of freedom.
I'm grateful for you sharing that. My morning is extremely the same or very similar. Christ family and the business. I just love that you mentioned that like that. But yes, up early every morning. And I also like The Miracle Morning was one of the first books that I read. I don't know if it's like 5-6 years ago now, but I remember reading that book, and that just creating that routine in the morning is just crucial. And you don't know what that morning should consist of at first exactly, but at least try, right? And then you can edit it and you can change it around, but get started. So what's your best source from now, Josh, for meeting new investors?
Best source now. I think one of the huge things that we've just been hitting on continually is that referral base. I mean, one of the big ways that we're getting new audiences to get new referrals from currently is the podcast and social media. Social media has probably been the biggest thing for us. We also hired I mentioned we hired a social media manager, but we also hired a social media, I don't know what you'd call them, that basically they go out and send out like 600 to 1,000 new direct messages over the course of 90 days to new potential investors, just to try to get the conversation started. And then I go on the back end after they've done all the scheduling and actually have the phone calls with them. So I've probably created like over 150 new connections just from social media over the last 30 to 45 days, just from being active and making it a point to go out there and meet new people.
Awesome. Are those people in the States, or are they in another country?
They're all in the States, just all throughout the United States.
Okay. I just wondered, what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
The number one thing contributing, I'd say probably my drive, probably the will to never give up, because there's been plenty of times that I could have given up, and that if you looked at it from the outside in, probably should have, especially way back when at the beginning stages when we were going through the whole fourplex thing and how it ended up taking a year and a half to finish the renovations when it was only supposed to take 6 months. We only had 6 months of reserve set aside. We didn't have the money to pay the mortgage. So where'd the money come from? I don't know. Jesus just made it show up. But it was like we should have not been doing what we were doing, but just continuing to work at it and continuing to know that if I just don't quit, like I'll eventually win. Eventually this will be good. So
awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. It reminds me, we watched the Chosen, and if listeners haven't saw the Chosen, you should look it up. You have to have an app or to download the app though. And we were watching the one last night where Peter is just at his wit's end, and he's out fishing all night long. No fish. And then all of a sudden, anyway, you should watch it. It's an amazing episode. Jesus is there and, says, cast your nets over there. And he has he just doesn't believe anything's going to happen. Right. And of course they can't even hardly get them all in. So just incredible story, but I appreciate you sharing that. Tell us how you like to give back.
How I like to give back. I like that you asked that question because it's been something I've really been thinking about. The whole purpose of us getting into this was to give back, was to have more time with family so that we could also have freedom of time, so that we could give more financially and give more with our time, whether it be with a charity or with the church or whatever. My wife's been challenging me. Shout out to my wife. She's been the leader that she shouldn't have to be in our spiritual life over the last year of me really diving into this. So shame on me, but she's been like, I really want us to get into, some more charities. And she has a passion for human trafficking and so like homeless shelters and that kind of thing. So she wants us to get more involved timely with those things, because my initial goal getting into it was, hey, let's get to the point where we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars that we could just give away. That'd be huge. That'd be such a great help to all these different industries and organizations that we want to help. And she's like, that's great. Yes. When we get there, I want to do that. But what are we doing now? Why are we just waiting for the what if and then the when this happens? We've got time now. Let's get out there and let's start helping people with what we can do. And I'm like, you're so right. So the way we like to give back is spending our time, since we don't have a whole lot of money right now.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. It's so important. Yeah. If you're not giving now, you're most likely never going to give, no matter if your income increases. So appreciate that, Josh. Just a great show. Great story. Appreciate your dedication and just your drive. And congratulations again on not quitting when you are in the middle of that fourplex, and even just pushing through the 30 days and learning so much, and now being willing to share it with us. So many things about your process that I hope the listener is taking away, and myself. So important. And so tell them how they can get in touch with you again and learn more about you.
Yeah, so you can check out our website, ferraricapital.com. We've got a free ebook on there that just teaches you what the ins and outs of syndication are, because that's our primary niche. And then we've got our monthly newsletter you can get in. And a lot of people like to get into that sheerly from the standpoint of wanting to learn market specifics of our local area. We also have what new investment opportunities we have going on, and typically some type of educational piece of information. But we also provide what's the market data in Mobile? What's the cap rate? Are new businesses coming in? Are they leaving? What new businesses are coming in? How many new jobs? And people seem to just soak that up. So sign up for that, and you'll get all the updated market data on Mobile and kind of this Gulf Coast panhandle here. You can also check out our podcast, Creative Capital. You can see that on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. And then check out our social media. We've got an Instagram, LinkedIn, and a Facebook. Instagram is Ferrari Capital, and then LinkedIn, its Facebook is Josh Ferrari.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.